How dare you disrespect our marriage and this kingdom?
It was a mistake.
Please, my queen, I beg you. I had no choice. I never meant to disrespect you. Please don't send me away. I have no one else.
Once upon a time, in the peaceful kingdom of Isiala, there was a mighty king named Eze or Denibo. He ruled with strength and wisdom, feared by his enemies and respected by his people. His queen Lolo Adarue was a beautiful woman, known for her grace and loyalty. Together, they were the perfect picture of royalty, living in a grand palace filled with servants who catered to their every need. Among the palace servants was a young housemaid named Nena. She was quite humble and hardworking. Her beauty was simple, and though she was a servant, her eyes shone with kindness. The king noticed her one fateful evening as she served him dinner. From that moment, he was captivated by her gentle spirit. Days turned into weeks, and Eze or Denigo found himself spending more time in Nena's presence. What started as harmless conversations in the quiet corners of the palace turned into secret meetings late at night. The king, blinded by desire, allowed himself to cross a line he never thought he would. Nena became pregnant. When Lolo Adarue found out about Nena's pregnancy, she was furious, her heart burned with betrayal. How could her husband, the king, shame her like this? The palace walls echoed with her rage as she stormed into the king's palace, demanding answers. Eze or Denibo,
How dare you disrespect our marriage and this kingdom?
she shouted, her voice shaking with anger. The king, ashamed and guilty, could not meet her eyes.
It was a mistake.
He mumbled, with Lolo Adarue was not having any of it. She ordered Nena to be brought before her. The poor maid, her belly already starting to show, stood trembling before the queen.
You have destroyed my home. You think you can bear the king's child and stay in this palace? You will leave this place at once.
Nena fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face.
Please, my queen, I beg you. I had no choice. I never meant to disrespect you. Please don't send me away. I have no one else.
But the queen's heart was hardened without another word. She ordered the guards to throw Nena out of the palace, banishing her from the kingdom. Eze, or Denibo, torn between his duty to his wife and the guilt he felt for Nena, watched helplessly as the woman he had wronged was dragged away. Nena, broken and alone, wandered through the dark forest, unsure of where to go. The kingdom was no longer her home, and the child growing inside her was a constant reminder of the king's betrayal. As she disappeared into the night, a storm began to brew both in the sky and in the hearts of those left behind in the palace. Lolo Adarue, though victorious in her revenge, found no peace. Her heart was restless, her mind filled with thoughts of the child that could have been born in the palace. The king, on the other hand, was haunted by the guilt of his actions, knowing that his secret would soon spread beyond the palace walls. And so, the once happy kingdom of Isiala began to crumble from within his royal family, torn apart by secrets, betrayal, and guilt. 10 years passed after Nena was banished from the kingdom. In that time, Isiala changed. The once great kingdom was no longer as prosperous as it had been. The palace, once filled with laughter and power, was now a place of sorrow. Queen Adarue, consumed by bitterness, had fallen ill, no longer could cure her, and her spirit was fading away. The guilt of her actions haunted her, and the shame of her husband's betrayal never left her heart. King Odenibo, though still on the throne, was a shadow of the man he once was. His decisions were no longer firm, and his kingdom suffered. He had no other children, and the fear of dying without an heir gnawed at him. The people whispered, remembering the day Nena was cast out, and many believed it was the queen's curse that had brought darkness upon the land. But far away, in the quiet village where Nena had been hiding, a different story was unfolding. Nena's son, named Chizoba, had grown into a strong, wise young man. He was tall, with a striking resemblance to his father, the king. Nena had raised him with love, telling him stories of his royal blood, but keeping the painful details of the past hidden. One day, a group of villagers traveled to Isiala to buy goods. They returned with tales of the kingdom's suffering, and the king searched for an elder. Nena knew it was time. She could not keep her son from his destiny any longer. With courage in her heart, she prepared to return to the palace with Chizoba by her side. When they arrived, the palace guards were stunned by the young man who stood before them. Word quickly spread, and soon the king was informed that Nena had returned with his son who looked just like him. The king, filled with hope, rushed to meet them. As Nena and Chizoba stood before the king, Eze Odenigbo was welcomed with emotion. He could not deny the truth. This was his son, the heir he had longed for. The guilt of the past washed over him as he embraced Chizoba.
Forgive me, Nena. I have lived in regret for what I did to you. Can you ever forgive me?
The past is gone, my king. We must look to the future now.
Word spread quickly through the kingdom. The king's son had returned, and with him, hope for the future. Chizoba was recognized as the rightful heir to the throne, and the kingdom rejoiced at the news. However, not everyone shared in the celebration. Queen Adarowe, weakened by her illness and bitterness that had consumed her for years, could not bear the sight of Nena's return, or the fact that her own childless life was ending in failure. Her health worsened, and shortly after Chizoba was declared heir, she passed away in her sleep, her heart too heavy with the weight of her past. With Queen Adarowe gone, Nena was welcomed back into the palace. The king, full of remorse, took her as his wife, and together they ruled over Isiala. The kingdom, once torn apart by secrets and betrayal, was restored to peace and prosperity.